Hi everyone, my guest for this episode is NYC-based stylist Márcia Marques. Her work has appeared in Seven Hues magazine, Solstice magazine, and Vulkan magazine to name a few. She's worked with designers and brands like Soid Studio and Mariel Marino Cosmetics. You can view her work on her Instagram at marciamarques.creative. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
So thank you. I think I found you through Monica, I believe.
Yes,
Yeah, Monica.
photographer, yes.
Yeah, she's introduced us to a lot of people. Our past guest, Zoe Zeller, we also met her through.
She's super nice. Yes.
So, tell us a little bit about what you've been doing recently. I know it's been kind of crazy for everyone, and some people haven't really gotten to do much. But have you been able to work on any projects?
Uh, yeah, as you said, lately it's been a little bit of a nightmare, and everything in industry, everything is like pretty much stopped. Uh, but I've been doing a lot of test shoots for models and I've been working a lot also with the Soid Studios and Jose Gonzalez. It's the designer from that studio, and I've been working a lot with him, and it's pretty much it, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, I've heard also from like Monica and other people that they haven't really been able to work on like any like actual work for like what did you say magazines and stuff like that. They've been sort of working on personal projects or like practicing. So
Exactly.
I guess that's kind of really the only thing that we have left at this point to just sort of grow our portfolios and like try to work on
Exactly.
as most as we can.
Y- Yeah. Well, at least for that is good.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
portfolio is getting good.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
like that way
it's
when
bigger and good.
when we do get back to work, we were able to be like, oh, I did this, I did this, I did all this new
Yes.
stuff that you
Yes.
haven't seen before. Yeah, exactly. So, like, for those who don't know, what exactly is styling and what does it consist of?
Well, there's different types of styling. Um, I do the fashion styling that consists of like editorials or also still life, soft goods. There's different types of styling. And then I do the interior
Mhm.
styling because I'm an interior designer, so I also do that.
So yeah, I feel like before we started this the interview, you mentioned that you went to FIT, and I was gonna ask you like if you had any formal styling education. You said you did. What did that look like?
So I actually finished tomorrow my fashion
Oh,
stylist certificate, and having a background in design and helps a lot already
right.
because you have your eye trained and everything. But going to FIT, doing the certificate fashion styling opened a lot of doors and show me how really this world works.
Right.
Because at the beginning, at the beginning, I thought it was something, and it's it's much more.
Mhm.
It's much more that I thought at the beginning, and I for everyone that really wants to be a stylist, I recommend to do um, some kind of classes or something just to get a notion of what is going to be in the
Right.
future.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of like other technical aspects or like aspects that you don't really know about until you actually try to pursue becoming a stylist. Like I didn't know before that a lot of times you guys have to take out credit cards and like when you borrow pieces, if you don't return them, you're charged for them and that kind of that's you could
Oh,
owe money because of that. So I didn't know that until I started going to FIT and I had to take a styling class and I found out about that. But
it's that part is crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, it's so crazy that sometimes you're like you get lost in all those things that you have to do because like a photographer, a makeup artist, or the hairstylist, they go for an editorial, for example. They go, they have the equipment, they do their work, and that's it. And
Mhm.
then, but no, a stylist has to work at least a week before to find all the
Right.
pieces, and then work in the set, make sure that everything is correct, and then after to return and to go to the showrooms to return all the pieces. It's a really big work.
Right. Yeah. How hard is it, do you think, to like borrow from people?
Well, that depends a lot. That depends a lot. If you want to do for magazines, like you have to have a letter of recommendation that the magazine does, and you go to showrooms. And then depends, the brands have certain image that they want to keep.
Right.
So they ask you what model is, for what magazine is, and if they feel like it's good for them, they borrow. If they don't, they just say no.
Right. They just like, no, you have to find someone else. Yeah, that's why it takes so long.
Exactly.
Because you have to, you have to contact every designer, like every brand, and see if they'll let you. And if they don't, then you have to
Exactly.
find
Yeah.
something else.
Yeah.
I see that you're also like a photographer, and as you previously said, an interior designer. Which one did you start with?
I started with photography.
Okay.
I didn't start with fashion photography. I started with fine art photography and experimental photography. That's what I do. I tried some fashion photography, but I really like it's more experimental and more artistic, fine art photography. Uh, and then I studied architecture. So
Okay.
that's what it comes to the interior design. And when I moved to New York, I realized that there's something here that I can do that I always wanted to do, that it was going to the fashion world.
Right.
So I started my FIT certificate.
So, do you think interior styling or fashion styling, which one do you think is more challenging out of the two?
It's different. It's different. Fashion styling usually involves more people. You have to deal with more people. The interior, it can be more quiet, So, but they all have challenges, different challenges.
Right. So, like you said, you always wanted to go into fashion. Do you feel that you enjoy like fashion styling more, like the fashion aspect, than you did for like interior design or like architecture or photography?
Definitely fashion. I feel like I'm at home.
Mm-hmm.
But interior, I'm also at home. So,
Right. So,
yeah.
you say they're both equal and that you have like
Yeah,
special time and like mood for them. Right.
yeah, and they are connected.
They are, yeah, they're very connected.
They are connected because all the trends and styles we can see in the fashion, but also we can see in the interior design. So
Right.
they are so connected that
Right. Yeah. I feel like especially now that a lot of bigger brands are releasing like their own like home decoration collection. So like now you see like
exactly
with like the pink clam chair and like other brands like that. So
exactly
I feel like people are realizing it more and more that like there really are kind of like the same thing in a way, because like interior design is fashion because you're kind of dressing up your house or like your space in a way. So it really is kind of like the same concept.
Yeah, I think it's having a language and keep having it at home and everywhere.
Right. Yeah. So like you said you became a stylist like once you came to New York, you realized you wanted to go into fashion. So in Portugal, you did interior design or did you do photography? No,
Oh
photography.
no, so photography and design, interior design.
When you were in Portugal, how different would you say are the industries like in Portugal from the US?
It's a big difference.
Yeah.
It's a huge difference. It's much smaller in Portugal,
Okay.
but there are a lot of good creatives there. A lot. If you see the Vogue Portugal now at the moment, for me it's one of the best boats that it's at the moment. They are so creative, so on point with the themes that they choose and everything. But the world is much more smaller.
Right. So like, you feel like maybe the creativity is there, but the industry is just smaller, might not be as how do you
Yeah,
feel like
less opportunities.
commercial, less opportunities. Yeah, I see what you
Yes.
mean. So what do you think has been the hardest part? Like right now that you took the certificate course for FIT and you're starting to like work more on your stylist career. Which one do you think is the hardest part so far that you've encountered?
You cannot control external factors.
Right.
Like if it is an editorial outside, it's going to rain and everything is canceled. And you work so hard to find all that stuff and for nothing
Right.
because you have to return and then borrow again in an eventual. It's, yeah. The human relation,
Mm-hmm.
it's always a challenge, right? Because we're not all the same and sometimes there's some people that are like more like this and people that are like more like that. So sometimes it's a challenge too, but and also having to carry all the stuff.
Right.
That's the most, and I'm short, so for me it's it's crazy. Yeah.
Yes, but I feel like also having to like manage the pieces. I feel like if I was a stylist, the thing I would be the most like afraid of is like if an expensive piece was like ruined or dirtied, I would be terrified.
Yeah, you have to keep your eye open on all the time and all over the place because you
Right.
you want to control. Yes.
Right. So like, do you think it I feel like you mentioned this before, like that personal aspect of styling as compared to like interior design styling, that you have to deal with more people. Like you have to deal with makeup artists, you have to deal with like photographers and stuff like that. Do you recommend that people who want to be stylists that they have like that personable skill, or like they're able to talk to people in a certain way?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Is the communication in styling? It's very very important. So definitely they need to. You cannot be too shy in this.
Right, I can imagine, because you have to, first of all, you have to like, ask for designers or brands. So that in itself, it's really
Exactly.
difficult to try and convince them or try to like talk to them in a certain way that they'll trust you enough with their pieces. And then you have to work with all these people on set. So I can imagine you're dealing with a lot of people all the time, constantly, and it's
Yes.
hard sometimes. So
Yeah.
that's what I would ask. Like, who do you think stylists should network with?
Photographers, because usually when brands, companies, and they start a project, they think first in the photographer.
Right,
And if the photographer has already some team or people that he really likes to work, he recommends.
right,
So that is very good, photographers. And then PR people from showrooms, and so
right.
you can have more access.
Right. Yeah, I feel like that's a big difference as compared to like when I ask like makeup artists or like photographers, they always tend to say like, oh, who you should network with. They tend to say photographers too, or they say like makeup artists, like stylists. But I feel like that's one of the specific ones that stylists network with that no one really has interaction with, which is like the PR people or like the actual brand people you have to work with, because
Yes.
you have to borrow from them. So before you start your formal education at FIT, were you already working in styling or no?
No.
No, not at all. So like
No.
you like before that, were you preparing in some way to become a stylist? Like before you decided to take a course at FIT?
Well, I've been prepared pretty much since I was a kid because I love so much
Right.
this that I don't know. I can eat magazines, fashion magazines and all that stuff because I really love it. So it's kind of a language that is always on my mind. And then I went to the FIT just to find out what was really about,
Right.
and I liked it.
Right, to sort of get to know like that aspect that you might not have found out otherwise until you started working or until you had been in there for like a while. So you
Yes,
would recommend for someone to get formal education if they can.
for me, it made a big difference. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I know a lot of people often think that there's not really formal education for styling, that it's just sort of something that they can just start out doing on their own. Like, I guess some people have been able to do it, but I feel like now more than ever, there's a lot of like formal education opportunities for people to actually take these courses, especially now, because I feel like a lot of these courses you can take online. You don't have to take it like in person, like for like actual like design or illustration, you can definitely do it. So, what was something you would have done differently in the beginning, like when you first moved to New York?
Well, I would start immediately
Right.
the because I didn't start immediately the my FIT certificate. So I wouldn't wait those 2 years that I waited, almost three. So
Right.
I would start immediately because the sooner you start, more experience you get, and you keep things flowing more. It's yeah. The only thing is that I would start earlier.
Right. So like from when you got to New York up until when you started the certificate, you weren't working like at all in styling. Were you working like in other things?
Interior design.
Interior design only. Okay. Wow. How hard was it to sort of break into the scene of interior design when you got to New York?
It wasn't that hard. It wasn't that hard because, well, I guess I got lucky. I found some opportunities, and it was a big world. Now the city is a little bit sad, but it was a big world, interior design. And I hope like in a year, everything comes back to normal.
Right. Yeah, it's like I feel like also because from Portugal you had already worked in Portugal, you were able to sort of bring over that portfolio that you already had from your past work into here.
Yes, yes, yeah.
So like how receptive, like I don't know if the trends in Portugal are the same because I know like in other countries trends vary a lot. Do you think the style of what American people like and what like Portuguese or other Europe people like is very different?
It is. It is different. Um, Not saying here in New York, because here in New York you see all
All
kinds
types,
of
yeah.
styles. That's why I love this city. Uh, but if you go like for more interior, more rural, um, you see that it's a big difference. European style and the American style can be very different. Yeah.
Do you feel like I don't know if were already interested in styling when you were in Portugal, but do you think that the same for fashion styling is the same as like interior design? Or do you think that's a little bit more universal?
It's starting to be much more universal now.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a different like few years ago, but now it's much more uh, more equal. Yeah.
Yeah, the trends tend to be a lot more similar, and you tend to identify certain things more in both than it was
Yes.
before. Do you think that's because of like social media, since we get to see the same sort of thing, so people kind of like, oh, I like this, even though it's like halfway across the world, people are able to see the same things that we do, so that's why it's becoming more universal.
Oh, definitely. Social media. It's like everyone has access to the same information on every part of the world. So
Right.
definitely that helps a lot.
Mhm. How like also like how has social media helped you like with your work? How has it made it different than what you think styling used to be?
The communication for sure, because it's easier. I just can DM a designer and ask him um, if, he's interested in borrow some pieces. Like you're just going through Instagram and you find a brand, a new brand, and you just DM them.
Right.
A lot of times works like that, and they DM you too. Like
Yeah.
I already have like a there's a funny that's an Australian brand of jewelry that DM me in Instagram asking if I was interested in using their pieces, and they send me the pieces from Australia to here to New York, and I don't think that will be possible
Without social
without.
media.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So I feel like it's also good because it lets you know a lot more about like smaller brands and you're able to use them for like your portfolio. And I think it's nice when you use smaller brands because it tends to be more unique because like no one's ever seen this piece and it's like you're bringing it
Yes.
out and like sort of spotlighting it. So I think that's like one of the best things
Definitely,
about
definitely.
social media.
I prefer to work with more unique brands that
Right.
unique they're brands that you can see all over the place.
Right. Yeah, because I feel like if you like, you know, if you borrow from like one of the big brands, it's like this has already appeared somewhere else before. So it's like it's
Yeah,
not the same excitement or like it's not the same concept as like if you had like a smaller designer that it's like, oh, this piece has only appeared like in my pictures in my work. So yeah, I feel like
yeah,
it's
sure. I
still.
agree. Yeah.
So like how did you meet the people that you like the designers and brands you worked with, like Soid Studio? How did you come across his work?
So it was through a model that wanted to work with me. She asked me to do a test shoot if I could style her. And then she said to me, I know this designer that probably um, you can use some pieces. And then I started talk with him, and there's some kind of connection, and we started working together.
Right, because I saw on your Instagram that you work often with him and like Soid Studio. So that's why I wanted to ask, like, how did you meet them? Because it means it seems like you're one of like the main people he works with based off like his Instagram and your Instagram. I see that you work with him often.
Yeah, lately, yes. Since I met him, I've been working with him a lot. Yes.
Yeah. So like, what is something you wish you knew before you became a stylist?
Yeah, I would be carrying a lot of stuff
Right.
all around that I need like a really I don't know. I think it's good to learn in your way. You just learn every day, and every work you learn something. Really, it's true. It's like it can be a small detail, but in every work you do and every work I did till now, I learned something. So it's a path you have to go.
Right. So it's not like I wouldn't have wanted to know this before. It's like, it's okay. I learned it along the way, but that's kind of part of what it is to start
Yeah,
something new. Right. I see
yeah.
what you mean. So what are 5 tips for someone who wants to be a stylist?
First of all, decide what kind of styling you want to do. If you want to
Right.
do editorial or you want to do websites like soft goods and still life, uh, first of all, decide what do you want to. Then study all the fashion styles and trends because you really have to keep uh, updated and keep like an everyday basis. You go regularly
Right.
and look what is happening. Um, Also, find your voice, like your style, your image. Like you do something and people will say, "I think this was done by Marcia,"
Right.
or something like that.
Mhm.
That is very important too. That doesn't is not something that comes overnight, right? Like it's not. It takes a very long time. I think I still didn't find my 100% voice,
Right.
but yeah.
You need to
But I
work
think
towards it.
yeah. But it's very important to find your voice. Then don't give up easily because there will be a lot of obstacles,
Right.
and you just don't give up. You keep. They say no, and you say, "Okay, thank you very much. Let's see the next one."
Thank you so much, Marcia, for giving us those tips. So just a reminder that you can view her work on her Instagram at marciamarks.creative. So thank you so much for
Thank
having
you.
a call and like talking to me. So
Thank you for having me.
thank you.